Hello Zenith women, and welcome to the channel. Sometimes the loudest victories are won in silence. In a world where toxic people thrive on drama and manipulation, there's a rare breed of individuals who don't just endure their antics. They dismantle them with surgical precision. These are the Sigma females, masters of subtle dominance and quiet rebellion. Unlike the noise and chaos toxic individuals crave, Sigma females flip the script by playing a game no one expects. Calm, calculated, and utterly devastating. Here's a fact. Studies show that manipulative behaviors often escalate when they go unchallenged. But a Sigma female? She challenges toxicity without raising her voice or breaking a sweat. Her methods are so unorthodox they're almost comical, yet so effective they're downright terrifying to anyone on the receiving end. If you think handling toxic people is about shouting matches and storming exits, think again. The Sigma female's approach is a masterclass in flipping the power dynamic, and sometimes she doesn't even need to say a word. Buckle up, because what follows is a guide to the boldest, sharpest, and most unexpected ways Sigma females leave toxic people completely undone. It's not just handling them, it's annihilating their tactics with style. Number 1, becoming a mirror. Sigma females have an uncanny ability to turn toxic people's behavior against them, and one of their most brilliant tactics is becoming a mirror. This doesn't mean copying or mimicking in an obvious way, it's far more subtle and powerful. When a toxic person lashes out with manipulation, condescension, or passive-aggressive remarks, the Sigma female doesn't react emotionally. Instead, she reflects their behavior right back at them in a way that forces them to face their own actions. For example, if someone constantly interrupts or dismisses her ideas, she'll start interrupting them in the same manner, not to stoop to their level, but to show them how uncomfortable and unproductive their behavior truly is. If someone uses guilt trips or backhanded compliments, she responds with similar phrasing, but laces it with just enough calmness and logic to make it clear what's happening. It's a psychological wake-up call. This approach disarms toxic individuals because it deprives them of their usual advantage, chaos and control. They're used to people either crumbling under their tactics or lashing out emotionally. But when their actions are mirrored back with precision, it creates an unsettling effect. It's like holding up a magnifying glass to their flaws, making them confront the reality they try so hard to hide. What makes this tactic so effective is the Sigma female's control. She never lets her emotions take over. Every move is deliberate and restrained, ensuring the toxic person can't twist the situation to make themselves look like the victim. The mirror method doesn't just expose toxicity, it subtly teaches the person what it feels like to be on the receiving end of their own behavior. And that's a lesson no lecture or confrontation could ever deliver so effectively. Number 2, turning empathy into a tactic. Sigma females possess a rare ability to use empathy not as a vulnerability but as a tactical advantage, especially when dealing with toxic people. Unlike others who might allow their compassion to be exploited, they see empathy as a tool for understanding the inner workings of manipulative minds. By studying toxic individuals closely, observing patterns, motivations, and triggers, they gain insight into what drives their behavior. This knowledge becomes their weapon. For example, a toxic person may use guilt as a manipulation tool, aiming to control others by playing the victim. A Sigma female, however, sees straight through this ploy because she understands what the toxic individual truly craves: validation, attention, or control. Instead of reacting with guilt, she preempts the manipulation by addressing the root cause in an unexpected way. She might acknowledge their feelings in a calm, neutral tone, offering just enough recognition to diffuse the situation, but withholding the emotional fuel the toxic person is seeking. This predictive approach is what sets Sigma females apart. They don't wait to be blindsided by manipulative tactics. They anticipate the next move before it happens, staying one step ahead at all times. Whether it's navigating a passive-aggressive comment or sidestepping a power play, their empathy allows them to see beyond the surface. But here's the real brilliance. By leveraging empathy, Sigma females avoid unnecessary confrontation. They let toxic people believe they have the upper hand while subtly steering the interaction in a way that protects their own boundaries. In doing so, they disarm toxicity without ever raising their voice or engaging in pointless arguments. It's a quiet but powerful reminder that understanding someone deeply doesn't mean they have control over you. It means you have control over the situation. Number 3, exploiting toxic people's weaknesses. Sigma females have a razor-sharp ability to spot and exploit the weaknesses of toxic individuals, turning the tables in ways that toxic people never see coming. They don't waste time getting drawn into petty games or emotional drama. Instead, they focus on pinpointing the cracks in their opponent's armor. These weaknesses often lie in the very traits toxic people use to dominate others: insecurity, ego, or a desperate need for control. Once a Sigma female identifies these vulnerabilities, she uses them strategically to dismantle manipulative behavior. For instance, if a toxic person thrives on being the center of attention, she'll shift the spotlight elsewhere, depriving them of their sense of power. If someone's weakness is their fragile ego, she'll subtly challenge their sense of superiority by calmly calling out inconsistencies or flaws in their arguments. She does this in such a measured way that it's almost impossible to retaliate without exposing themselves further. What makes this tactic so effective is that it doesn't rely on aggression or confrontation. Toxic people are often experts at provoking emotional reactions, but Sigma females are unshakable. By staying composed and calculated, they flip the power dynamic entirely. Instead of being manipulated, they become the ones in control, leaving toxic individuals feeling exposed and powerless. Even more unsettling for toxic people is the fact that Sigma females don't gloat about their victories. They dismantle toxicity quietly, often leaving their targets unsure of how they lost control. This subtlety makes their methods all the more impactful. The toxic individual is left not only weakened, but often questioning their own tactics and abilities. In the end, a Sigma female doesn't just survive toxic behavior. She flips it on its head, using it as a tool to assert her own quiet dominance. Number 4, weaponizing success. For a Sigma female, success isn't just personal, it's strategic. When dealing with toxic people, she turns her achievements into a silent but devastating weapon. Toxic individuals thrive on control and undermining others, but when faced with a Sigma female, they find themselves utterly powerless to stop her momentum. Her success becomes the ultimate form of revenge, rendering their manipulative efforts meaningless and exposing their lack of influence. The brilliance of this tactic lies in its indirectness. A Sigma female doesn't confront toxicity head-on. Instead, she channels her energy into self-improvement, building a life so solid and fulfilling that it leaves no room for the toxic person to interfere. Every promotion, milestone, or victory she achieves serves as a reminder that their games had no impact on her trajectory. It's not about flaunting her accomplishments, but about thriving in a way that speaks for itself. What's most infuriating for toxic people is that they can't attack what they can't touch. When a Sigma female succeeds, she does so on her own terms, calmly, confidently, and without unnecessary drama. This leaves toxic individuals unable to claim credit, sabotage her, or even take up space in her narrative. The more they try to interfere, the more glaring their own ineffectiveness becomes. Even better, the Sigma female doesn't let her success feed their need for attention. She doesn't rub it in their face or waste time seeking their validation. Instead, she keeps moving forward, staying focused on her goals. Her quiet rise makes her untouchable, and the toxic person is left in the shadows, watching as their attempts to bring her down only fueled her ascent. In the end, her success becomes a living testament to her strength, leaving no doubt as to who truly won. Number 5, making toxicity irrelevant. Sigma females have mastered a strategy that's as infuriating to toxic people as it is brilliant. They make toxicity irrelevant. Rather than getting caught in endless cycles of conflict or expending energy on petty games, they take an entirely different approach. They focus on higher pursuits, personal growth, meaningful goals, and fulfilling relationships, effectively starving toxic individuals of the attention they desperately crave. This approach is rooted in a deep understanding of human behavior. Toxic people thrive on reactions, whether it's anger, frustration, or even attempts to reason with them. To them, attention is currency and conflict is a playground. A Sigma female, however, refuses to play. She doesn't fight, argue, or explain herself. Instead, she simply redirects her energy toward things that matter, leaving the toxic person scrambling for relevance. What makes this tactic so devastating is its simplicity. Toxic people rely on creating chaos to maintain control, but when a Sigma female ignores their antics and rises above them, the chaos collapses under its own weight. She doesn't waste time trying to change them or win the argument. She focuses on building her life in a way that leaves no space for their negativity. This isn't about passive avoidance, it's an active decision to prioritize. Whether it's a career, passion project, or meaningful connection, Sigma females pour their energy into what elevates them. Over time, this not only diminishes the toxic person's influence, but also highlights just how insignificant their behavior is. The most satisfying part, toxic individuals can't stand being ignored. Watching someone they hope to control thrive without them is a blow to their ego they can't recover from. By making toxicity irrelevant, Sigma females send a clear message. They don't have time for distractions. They're busy living their best lives. Number 6, mastering the disruption of power plays. Sigma females have an unmatched ability to dismantle power plays without creating unnecessary conflict. They see through the facade of manipulation and control almost instantly, spotting the subtle dynamics toxic people use to assert dominance. But instead of responding emotionally or defensively, they approach the situation with intelligence and strategy, flipping the script in ways that leave their opponents disoriented and powerless. What sets Sigma females apart is their ability to remain calm under pressure. Toxic individuals often rely on provoking reactions or creating situations where others feel cornered. A Sigma female, however, doesn't take the bait. Instead, she observes the situation, identifies the underlying motives, and finds the weak point in the power play. Whether it's someone trying to dominate a conversation, undermine her authority, or manipulate a group dynamic, she responds with a calculated move that shifts the balance of power. For example, if someone attempts to assert dominance by monopolizing a discussion, she might redirect the focus to someone else in the room, subtly taking control without confrontation. If a toxic person tries to undermine her credibility, she might use facts, humor, or even a well-timed question to expose the tactic without directly calling it out. The brilliance lies in how effortless it appears. Sigma females never let the toxic person see them sweat. This approach doesn't just neutralize the power play, it often leaves the toxic individual questioning their own effectiveness. Sigma females excel at making others feel like their manipulations have backfired, all while maintaining their composure and reputation. By staying one step ahead, they not only protect themselves, but also establish a quiet authority that's nearly impossible to challenge. It's not just about disrupting power plays, it's about owning the game entirely. Number 7. Defying expectations. Sigma females have a knack for defying expectations, especially when dealing with toxic individuals. Toxic people thrive on predictability. They rely on pushing buttons, provoking reactions, and manipulating situations based on how they think others will respond. But with a Sigma female, those tactics fall flat. She doesn't follow the usual script, and this unpredictability completely disarms toxic people, leaving them unsure of how to proceed. For instance, when a toxic person tries to spark conflict, most people might retaliate or try to defend themselves. A Sigma female, however, might respond with calm indifference, humor, or even a question that shifts the focus back onto the toxic person. This unexpected response catches them off guard as it deprives them of the emotional fuel they were hoping for. In other scenarios, a toxic individual might expect the Sigma female to avoid confrontation entirely. But instead of backing down, she might address the issue directly, but with a calm, measured tone that neutralizes the tension. Her ability to handle conflict on her own terms, without anger or fear, completely throws toxic people off their game. The key to her effectiveness is her ability to read the situation and adapt. Toxic people are creatures of habit, relying on patterns they've used before. A Sigma female sees through this and makes calculated decisions to disrupt those patterns. Whether it's surprising them with kindness, turning their manipulative tactics back on them, or simply walking away without explanation, her responses are so unconventional that they leave toxic individuals fumbling for control. By defying expectations, Sigma females send a clear message: they are not here to play by anyone else's rules. This unpredictability not only frustrates toxic people, but also establishes the Sigma female as someone who can't be easily manipulated or dominated. Number 8, creating consequences without conflict. Sigma females are masters of creating consequences for toxic behavior without resorting to direct confrontation. Rather than wasting energy on arguments or heated exchanges, they take a smarter, more strategic route. They let the toxic person's actions speak for themselves and allow natural consequences to unfold. This method is not only effective, but also remarkably satisfying because it avoids unnecessary drama while still holding the toxic individual accountable. For example, if someone is constantly gossiping or spreading falsehoods, a Sigma female doesn't engage in a back and forth to prove them wrong. Instead, she might casually share truthful, verifiable information in a public setting, exposing the gossip without ever directly calling them out. The toxic person ends up discredited by their own behavior, and the Sigma female remains composed and untouched by the fallout. Another tactic involves setting boundaries that force toxic individuals into accountability. If someone continually oversteps or takes advantage, the Sigma female subtly removes access to her time, energy, or resources. She doesn't need to explain herself or issue ultimatums. The toxic person simply finds themselves excluded or left to handle situations they once offloaded onto her. This creates a natural consequence. They're left to face the results of their actions on their own. The genius of this approach is that it eliminates the toxic person's ability to twist the narrative or play the victim. By engineering situations where the consequences arise from the toxic person's own choices, the Sigma female ensures accountability without ever lifting a finger to argue or defend herself. It's a quiet yet powerful form of justice that leaves no room for retaliation. Over time, toxic individuals either adapt their behavior or find themselves isolated, realizing they can no longer thrive in the presence of someone who refuses to engage in their games. Number 9, forcing self-reflection. Sigma females have a unique ability to make toxic people confront their own behavior without ever having to say a word. Rather than engaging in the exhausting process of calling out or reprimanding someone for their actions, they set the stage for self-reflection to occur naturally. This quiet yet powerful tactic is a testament to their emotional intelligence and control. They understand that forcing someone to reflect on their actions often has a more profound impact than any confrontation could. For example, if a toxic person is behaving manipulative or deceitful, a Sigma female might subtly shift the focus of a conversation, asking a question that highlights the inconsistency in their behavior without directly accusing them. She doesn't need to point out their wrongdoings. Instead, she creates a space where the other person is forced to evaluate their own actions. It's a brilliant move because it strips away the need for external validation or defense, leaving the toxic individual to question their choices internally. This strategy often works best in group settings where the toxic person is attempting to play power games. Sigma females might offer an alternative perspective, not by attacking or criticizing, but by simply suggesting a new way of looking at the situation. This gentle shift often forces the toxic person to reconsider their approach without feeling confronted. Over time, it becomes clear that their manipulations and behaviors are being observed and evaluated, and this awareness can lead them to make adjustments, sometimes without even realizing it. What's especially brilliant about this tactic is that it doesn't require the Sigma female to lower herself to the toxic person's level. She's not trying to win an argument or get them to admit fault. She simply lets their own conscience, or lack thereof, do the work for her. By remaining calm and composed, she allows toxic individuals to see themselves for who they truly are, often leading them to rethink their actions without the need for a single word of condemnation. Number 10, using humor as a weapon. Sigma females wield humor like a precision weapon, using it not just to entertain, but to dismantle toxic egos in a way that leaves their targets fumbling and powerless. Their humor isn't loud, crude, or mean-spirited. It's sharp, quick, and almost surgical in its delivery. It's not about getting a laugh. It's about subtly cutting down the inflated sense of superiority that toxic individuals often carry around. When a toxic person tries to belittle, insult, or manipulate, the Sigma female doesn't fall into the trap of reacting with anger or frustration. Instead, she uses humor to reframe the situation in a way that exposes the ridiculousness of their behavior. A quick, well-timed quip or witty observation can deflate the toxic person's ego without them even realizing what's happening. For instance, if someone tries to undermine her accomplishments or inject negativity into a conversation, she might respond with a dry, self-aware comment that makes their attempt at manipulation seem petty and irrelevant. Rather than engaging in a back and forth, she subtly shifts the spotlight onto their immaturity or self-centeredness, leaving them with no choice but to take a step back. What makes this tactic so effective is that humor disarms. It's not aggressive, but it is incredibly powerful. Toxic people often rely on intimidation or control. But when faced with someone who can turn their behavior into a joke, they lose their footing. They can't retaliate without looking foolish, and the atmosphere shifts from one of tension to one of awkwardness. By using humor strategically, Sigma females show that they're not intimidated by toxicity. They don't need to engage in drama or escalate a situation. They simply disarm the toxic person with wit, exposing their flaws in a way that's impossible to ignore and even harder to respond to. In the end, the toxic person may walk away feeling small, all because the Sigma female used humor to expose their weakness without ever raising her voice. In the end, the genius of Sigma females lies not just in their ability to navigate toxic people, but in their capacity to utterly transform the dynamics in a way that leaves those toxic individuals powerless. They don't fight fire with fire. They dismantle toxicity with calm, calculated precision, whether it's through leveraging their intelligence, using humor as a weapon, or forcing self-reflection without uttering a single word. What makes them truly exceptional is their refusal to conform to the chaotic, emotional roller coaster that toxic people thrive on. Instead, they rise above it, thriving in environments where others falter. They don't just survive, they create a world around them where toxicity is irrelevant, where power plays collapse under their own weight, and where toxic people are left to confront their own behavior in the quietest, most strategic ways possible. Sigma females understand that control isn't about loud declarations or constant confrontation. It's about quiet dominance, about playing the game on their terms. In the end, they don't just flip the script, they rewrite it entirely, leaving toxic people not only out of the picture, but questioning their very methods. And that in its own right is a masterpiece of power, grace, and absolute brilliance. If you've enjoyed uncovering the quiet power and brilliance of Sigma females, don't let this insight slip away. Subscribe to the channel and join a community that thrives on mastering the art of strategic living. You won't just be gaining knowledge, you'll be unlocking the secrets to transforming your life and relationships one brilliant move at a time. So hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for more wisdom, and get ready to embrace the extraordinary. This is just the beginning. Let's keep flipping the script together. Bye for now and see you in the next video.